on this computer. All right, so welcome to the 2025 Zero Waste Dutchess pre-Earth Day Zero Waste Zoom, All-Star Zero Waste Zoom. I'm Joel Tyner, former Dutchess County Legislator. And if everybody wants to introduce themselves. Who wants to go first?
All right, I'll kick it off. This is Mike Ewall. I'm the founder and executive director of Energy Justice Network. We're a national group based in Philadelphia, helping community groups around the country fight off dirty energy and waste facilities like waste incinerators. And I believe Zero Waste Dutchess is one of our member groups.
Yeah. Mom, why don't you go next?
Okay. Judy Malstrom, from Zero Waste Dutchess. I guess we've been working on this project of closing the incinerator and going to zero waste for a number of years now, and I think we're getting somewhere. We joined Zweeney, which is Zero Waste New York, and it's been very enlightening experience to see what's going on all over the state, and that's about it.
Deputy Town Supervisor of the Town of Clinton, Eliot Werner, has joined us. Hey, Eliot.
Hey, who am I looking at here? I'm sorry.
That's okay. Shabazz Jackson of Greenway Environmental Services. Did you want to introduce yourself?
Yes.
I'm Shabazz Jackson with Greenway, and Josephine's in the other room working on a project. So we're very happy to be here. Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day. Manna Greene, former environmental director for many years for Hudson River Sloop Clearwater, former recycling coordinator for Ulster County in the Resource Recovery Agency, long-term veteran member of the Ulster County Legislature representing Rosendale. Did I steal your thunder, Manna? What else?
Well, the fact that I absolutely am working to maximize waste diversion in Ulster County and beyond, and try to create a model for other municipalities. We were fortunate not to build an incinerator in Ulster County, but instead we're spending $10 or $11 million a year to transport the waste we're not managing within our own borders to Seneca Meadows. And so I look forward to talking about the alternatives, and I'm very honored to be on the same platform as Shabazz and Mike Ewall, and hopefully Neil Seldman will be able to join us.
Amen. And we have the Deputy Town Supervisor for the town.
Hey, is that you, Joel? I almost didn't recognize you. My God, you've grown up.
And it had to happen at some point.
Look at you. Wow. Wow. There you go.
Got my little buzz cut going on.
I see that. Yes, indeed. How's Oregon?
Hey, it's Oregon.
Sorry, how's Oregon?
It's good. It's good.
Glad to hear.
I've got my master's degree in special education from Portland State University. I'm a teacher here. I miss everybody in the Hudson Valley. But
for you.
It's good to be involved from 2,500 miles away. How many times have you been elected to the Clinton Town Board now?
Elected twice, defeated once. I was on for a term, and then I was off for 2 years, and I came back. And actually, Michael Whitten and I are running for re-election this year. And Hannah Black is going to be on the ballot with us. So there's going to be a triumvirate running. She's running for town board. Awesome. She and I are running for town board. So
Hannah's great. Yep, I served with her in the county legislature, and she did a great job for elections commissioner.
Well, you know, at the time she lived in Hyde Park, but now she's a Clintoner.
Right. That's what my mom told me.
Oh, yeah. So I think it's a coup to get her as a candidate, and hopefully as an incumbent, depending on how things go in November.
It certainly is. Well, you guys do a great job on the issues and the GOTV and the door-to-door and all that. All right. So,
Yeah, I hope
Mike,
so.
Mike, do you want to update us on? It's been a while since we had one of these Zooms. There's been some progress. You made some progress with the EPA, and tell us what's going on in Oregon, Hawaii, town of Poughkeepsie, Colony, New York, and anywhere. Dude, give us your update, Mike. Give us some hope.
Oh gosh, okay, so much. Let me start by pointing out that at the end of this month in Albany is the first Zero Waste New York in-person gathering, and that I hope anyone watching this and anyone here is able to make it out there or try or send another person or two if you can. If you go to zerowasteny.org/conference, and Joe, I'm gonna phone the car, that's why I'm not on a video, but if you want to type this into the chat for anyone or put it out there in other ways, that would be great. It's zerowasteny.org/conference if you want to learn more about it and register, ask for scholarships if you need it, but just get yourself there because it's a really good opportunity to connect with other folks. Now, the work we've been doing at Energy Justice Network, gosh, it's a lot. We're active in Hawaii and Florida, in almost every state from like Virginia up to Massachusetts and some random other places, including Oregon, fighting incinerators primarily. And we're also doing some work at the federal level with EPA. And I'll say we were doing work at that level until the current administration, and we have just not tried to resume that because I don't even know if the same people are there at the moment, but we will pick that ball up at some point and see what can be done. But what we were doing was that we had at one point, this was in October 2022, we had 274 groups sign on to a letter that we did to the Biden White House Council on Environmental Quality, calling on them to deal with the fact that EPA has numerous pro-incinerator policies that need to be turned around. And they never so much as acknowledged receiving that, but EPA definitely noticed and took note. They were copied on it. And the industry did too, and they freaked out immediately. And I was in one of their conferences where they were freaking out right in front of me before all their industry and academics who are paid by the incinerator industry, I should say, conference, and talking about how they were horrified, especially by the fact that we were asking EPA to revisit their waste hierarchy that consistently has been saying for decades now that incineration is better than landfilling, which we know is not true. And we have life cycle assessments showing that's about 2 to 3 times more harmful than going straight to a landfill instead of burning things first. But EPA has been saying this, and when we called them on it a few years ago, this was earlier in 2022, at the beginning of the year, we had them admit to us that they have no documentation to back up placement of incineration above landfilling. So it was that summer, July 2022, that they put a disclaimer under the hierarchy saying that they are revisiting it, which is still there. Every place you see their hierarchy, it says they're going to be revisiting it based on the latest data and information. This is a very slow process with this agency, but you still see that used. Just in the past week, I saw a consultant use it in Florida to justify promoting incineration as a preferred thing, saying that EPA says it's preferred. Without that disclaimer being carried forward, they're just pointing to EPA and say they're the experts. They say incinerators are better. And we see this happening all over the country in states and local governments and their consultants that just point to that little upside down triangle and say incinerators better. Look, EPA knows best, even though they told us they don't. So one of the things that they're revisiting in order to revisit the hierarchy is this WARM model, which is a global warming model that looks at waste systems and says which ones are better than others in terms of climate impacts. And that model has a few major flaws in it. One is that it only looks at climate, but the other 2 flaws cause it to always flip the results from what they ought to be and shows that incineration is better than landfilling in that model, which we know from other models is not correct. However, they have never had it peer reviewed, and they admitted that to us. So they got it peer reviewed, and they opened up a comment period. This is a year and a half ago-ish. and they still have not processed all the information to come up with a revised version of the model, which under the Trump administration, who knows if it will even continue to exist, because it's about climate. It's the webpage is still up, so they haven't taken that down yet, but I just don't know what's going to happen in the next 4 years as far as that goes. But that's another area where we're making some progress in getting EPA to revisit their policies on these issues. And there were two other places that we saw little victories. Actually, one's not so little, but both of them were this past December. One of them was where we had asked EPA to stop exempting waste incinerators from having to report their toxic emissions to the air, to the water, to the land, to the Toxics Release Inventory database, which is a major database used every year. They put out information from all kinds of industries, well, not all, but certain kinds of industries, manufacturing, power plants and such. And you can find out how much stuff is being put into your environment and how many pounds of which chemicals and stuff like that. But this industry, since that database started in the late 80s, the incinerator industry has been exempt. So you'll see maps made by the media, by investigative journalists and academics that show like bigger and smaller red dots on a map of where the toxic pollution is in your county. If there's an incinerator in your county, it's probably the largest or one of the top 4 industrial air polluters of toxic chemicals. And it just isn't on the map at all. It's like it doesn't exist because they're exempt from reporting. So we had 313 groups backing us on this. And we did a formal rulemaking petition to EPA back in April 2023. And by December 24, they granted our petition. And for most of the incinerators in the country, they are going to have to start reporting, which is awesome. I don't know how soon and whether that'll roll out under the Trump administration, but that is what EPA decided. And the last one, then I'll stop. And if you want to get me going back on like all the local things going on, there's a whole other side of this. But since you asked about EPA, I'll point out the one other federal thing that we won. And that is we've been seeing communities, including on Long Island, including in my home county and where I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and also in Palm Beach County, Florida. And they're trying to do this in Honolulu, Hawaii. They've been taking incinerator ash or trying to take it and build roads with it, or use it as construction material in other ways. And that's just really dangerous. And the industry and those aligned with it have been arguing that, well, the test for whether incinerator ash is hazardous, which always comes up saying it's non-hazardous, except where they screwed up on Long Island and were illegally dumping it in a normal landfill, even though they didn't verify that it's non-hazardous according to that test. But non-hazardous does not mean non-toxic, and does not mean inert, and does not mean it's safe. It just means that after a Supreme Court ruling in 1994, where EPA previously was saying, well, we're just going to categorically say this is non-hazardous, and the Supreme Court said if a test hazardous, it's hazardous. And so the EPA changed the test to make sure it doesn't come up hazardous chemically. And so we got them to admit in December in a statement that just because it passes that test and says it's non-hazardous doesn't mean that it's safe in all contexts, especially if it's ingested, inhaled, or even you're just by touching it. And that is because we asked them to, because we're seeing examples across the country where it's being used as daily cover at landfills for itself. And so it can blow into communities and has done so in a number of places. It can blow off of trucks. And if they're making things like roads out of it, people are getting exposed in other ways, including workers handling the material. So now we at least have EPA on the record saying non-hazardous on the test is only about what leaches into the water under specific pHs, under laboratory short-term tests. It does not mean the stuff is safe in all contexts, and we shouldn't just be like putting it everywhere.
Excellent. I still remember William Calogero, the former longtime executive director for the Dutchess County Resource Recovery Agency. It was one of his hobby horses. He was sort of bent, driven, and obsessed for years and years and years. And I think this has been repeated and echoed in some of the Dutchess County solid waste management plans over the last decade. This whole thing about BUD with the DEC in New York, the beneficial use determination to, things would be so much easier for Dutchess County if DEC granted a BUD for the ash. So I'm glad you're bringing that up. anyway, Stoop Dog. I think Stoop Dog may be the ubiquitous, wondrous Dave Heller. I'm not sure.
Hello.
That is Dave. All right, but Mike Ewall, I'm interrupting you. So anything else, Mike?
Well, there's always more, but I took up a lot of space already. So why don't we give some other folks some time, and then if you want to dive into what's going on in other communities around the country, I'm happy to give some updates on that if you want.
All right.
Joel, can I just throw a question? Because I'm not as involved in this as you folks are. Is Zeldin the new EPA administrator? Am I right about that?
I'm pretty sure.
I would imagine he's not particularly concerned with this issue.
I don't know where he stands on this, but he's from Long Island, I think, and they have 4 trash incinerators there, and politicians have been pushing hard from Long Island to get it a bunch of subsidies from the state and to give them renewable energy credits, which was a form of subsidies. So I have a feeling that he's probably aligned in favor of that if he has a position on it. But the one thing I can say that could be favorable is that one of the first Trump administration's EPA people, one of the top people there, she came out pretty hard against incineration when it was proposed to build the largest trash incinerator in the Americas in Miami-Dade County, Florida. Actually, no, sorry, I'm screwing things up a little bit. She came out against the state subsidy that would facilitate that and other new incinerators in Florida. But more recently, the connection in Miami-Dade County specifically is that they're trying to build a new incinerator, 4,000 tons per day, so it'll be the largest in the Americas, in the city of Doral, Florida. And that is right catty corner to where the Trump family has a resort and golf course. And so they came out against that incinerator. And it's definitely a not in my backyard type of thing, but it might open up the opportunity that we can get the Trump administration to recognize more broadly that incineration isn't such a good thing.
Was that reported in the media at all that she came out against it?
Yes, if you go to energyjustice.net/FL in lowercase for Florida, you'll find, I don't think I name her in there, but her name is Mandy, and I'm blanking on her last name, but if you look up, it might name where the article was. It's in an online right-wing journal called Florida Politics. But just scan down that page. There is a link to it on there. And in terms of the media coverage of the Trump family opposing the incinerator being built or rebuilt, rather, it burned down in a 3-week fire 2 years ago, the old one that they had in that county. But there are several news articles about Eric Trump and maybe others in the family speaking up against rebuilding in Doral.
Amen. Thank you, Mike. That's Mike Ewall, founder, director of the Energy Justice Network. I want to go to Shabazz and Manna and my mom and Eliot and Dave. But one thing, if you don't mind, Mike, I mean, I guess anybody could do this, hypothetically speaking, and do the arduous task of combing through online reports or filing FOIA requests with the EPA for toxic releases. But I am just going to read. So we're talking about 13 pounds of mercury that comes out of the Dutchess County incinerator in Poughkeepsie each year, 13 pounds, 19 pounds of lead, 24 tons of volatile organic chemicals, 163 tons of nitrogen oxides, 18 tons of sulfur dioxide, 77 tons of carbon monoxide, 106 tons of carbon dioxide. I think I'm lowballing the greenhouse gas figures. The nitrogen oxide happens when sulfur dioxide sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide form the smog and the acid rain. There's over 37,000 people in Dutchess County who already have asthma, COPD, lung cancer, and of course, I guess there was an organization in Minnesota that pointed out that 1 gram of mercury is enough to make fish in a 20-acre lake too poisonous to eat. So we're not just talking about 1 gram of mercury that comes out of the Dutchess County incinerator each year, 13 pounds, and never mind the dioxins. So before we go to Shabazz and Manna and Eliot and my mom and Dave, Mike, is there anything you wanted to chime in on that?
You might just want to do the conversion of grams to pounds for those who don't inherently know that, because it's a staggering amount of 20-acre lakes where you can't eat the fish when you're talking about that amount of mercury being put out every year.
Yeah, it's 5,896 grams of mercury each year, and that's gone up. That's an increase from a year, 2 or 3 ago. Even WPDH, which I don't particularly, I mean, WPDH is great. They used to have me on the old Coop and Tobin days. But WPDH reported a few years ago that the Tishman Environment and Design Center at the New School in New York City said that the Dutchess County incinerator is one of the most polluting incinerators in the United States and the dirty dozen as far as mercury emissions and carbon monoxide emissions. And I think Mike found that the greenhouse gas emissions were something like the same thing as 22,000 cars being on the year. On the roads for a year. Anyway, on to Shabazz. I know my mom just organized a tour of some very important town of Clinton folks. Took a tour of Shabazz's facility, and I have Shabazz's video all lined up. But Shabazz, why don't you tell us some of what did you get Beacon up to, like a 70% recycling rate like 40 years ago, 30 years ago? Tell us about the wonderment that is Greenway Environmental Services and Shabazz and Josephine Shabazz.
Well, you know, I don't spend much time talking about Beacon, but I'm talking about Hurley, and we have a contract with the town of Hurley to develop a zero waste system for the town. We have gone through the audit. We've gone through the all of the reviews. We've figured out how much waste that we can divert, and we have applied for a grant, and it appears that we're going to get it. And are you going to try to go to the video from that screen?
I was going to go to the video from a different screen. I just wanted to show people the town.
Oh, okay. Then that's our website at the town of Hurley. The nice thing about that is our contract is on that website, and so that many towns, like we were in Saugerties last week, and well, this week. So if you went to the Saugerties website, you could see the presentation that we made there. It was a 40-minute session that we had with them, because they are very interested in doing the same thing that the town of Hurley is doing. And this contract is a model. So what the contract does is it develops a public-private partnership, and it's something that a lot of legal talent has gone into that to create a partnership that protects all of our ideas, all of our systems, everything that we have created. They are listed at the end of this contract, and they are protected. Typically, when you have a contract with a municipality, everything belongs to the municipality. But what we were able to do is everything that is on this website is available to anyone who wants to use it or can use it. So all of our presentations, all of the resolutions that leading up to. Say it again.
My wife's trying to figure out dinner. I'm sorry.
Okay, so it's something that we don't have to reinvent the wheel, and it's something that is really really gives an advantage to a municipality like Saugerties, who are interested in doing the same thing. So that's one area. I'd like to throw this out, and then maybe you could show the video.
Will do.
April 26th, we're going to be doing a zero waste Earth Day event at the New Paltz Dutch Reformed Church. May 1st, we're going to be in Hurley with the kindergartners at the Myers School, and we're going to be doing use of compost and giving away strawberries. We're going to be at the New Paltz Elting Library Monday, May 5th at 6 o'clock. The Plattekill Library in Modena Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Wednesday, we're going to be at the Cragsmore Library at 6 o'clock. And then Thursday, we're going to be in Rosendale. And this will be the fourth time, I say in the past 3 months, that we've been in Rosendale. We've presented to the Rosendale Street Fair. We've done a couple of tours. And what we are very committed to is zero waste events. And we feel like zero waste events are the real bottom, it's like the low-hanging fruit. They're easy to get to 90% recovery, and they introduce a lot of people. So our Kiwanis Club has introduced over 100,000 people in the 3 years that we've been doing that event into our system. So we have a 5-minute video that was done by the students at the SUNY New Paltz, and it gives you a real overview of what that generation is thinking about.
All right, I'm going to show the video. I just wanted to formally welcome Neil Seldman, who's with us, recycling maven, guru, national, and my old friend Dave wanted to ask a question before I'm about to play that. I hear Shabazz quite often on WIOF. Are you on weekly? Dave wants to know.
Yes, it's twice a week, live on Tuesdays from 11 to 12, and then it rebroadcast on Thursdays from 8 to 9. And you're welcome to call in at any time and discuss, basically anything that you want to. The program is pretty flexible, and it's been running now for maybe about 7 months.
And that's 104.1 FM?
Yes.
And that's rebroadcasts Thursday nights?
Thursday nights at 8 o'clock.
All right. And the Garlic Festival, I'm about to play the video. I promise I'm about to play the video. But do you want to talk a little bit about, I don't know, how many volunteers and what the percentage of zero waste success you've had with the Hudson Valley Garlic Festival in Saugerties?
The Garlic Festival, well, last year, we had a 3-year contract. And last year was the 3rd year. And we started working with the town to do the setup, and then the town to operate the like the pop-up transfer station. And we have a couple of people that are going to take over Josephine's job. But they still want us around. So they hired us. So we've been getting 90% kind of consistently. And they said, well, we want to get 5% more. We want to go to 95%. So they gave us a contract for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus in on the prep waste produced by the vendors. And we're going to give out 5-gallon buckets. We're going to service those buckets. And we're going to really focus in on taking the weight out of that prep waste stream. And that's where we figured we could get another 5%, which is not that much, right? So it's only about maybe a ton and a half. So it's going to be right about 100 buckets, 100 full buckets that we got to get the people there to fill them up, and get the runners to collect. So we think we're going to be able to do it, and then hopefully that's all we're going to spend our time doing, is just going from vendor to vendor to vendor and doing whatever we need to do to get it into the buckets. So the Garlic Festival, we made a presentation to the E&E committee and the Ulster County E&E committee, and they put $25,000 into a line item to make all of the festivals in Ulster County zero waste festivals. So it's something that is utilizing our point of disposal collection, right? Separation and collection. It's straightforward because we already have 100,000 people that know how to use that, and that will go everywhere to anywhere they go. If you tell them that this is the system, they will utilize it, because it's the individual festival goer that makes it work. And it's the vendor purchasing the right stuff is where zero waste is created. So with our system, you buy zero waste the same way you buy waste. Where does waste come from? We buy it. And with our system, you can buy zero waste the same way. And that's what makes it so effective.
Excellent. All right, I'm ready to play the video.
Okay.
And it'd be nice if the Dutchess County budget put in. There's a lot more people in Dutchess County than Ulster County. There should be 30-40 grand in the Dutchess County budget for that, to make the Dutchess County Fair and all the festivals. And but maybe that's something that Dutchess County can work on, along with a real zero waste report, and shutting down the incinerator, and a reuse innovation center for Dutchess, just like Ulster. But I don't want to steal Manna's thunder too much. And Neil, we're going to get to you right after Manna. But here's the video. Let me see if I can do this properly. Ba-da-bum. Ba-da-bum. And yes, my desktop is rather cluttered. Okay, you can all see that. And here we go.
What we are doing is the foundation of sustainability.
Greenway's mission has been to protect the water and air of, at that point when we formed it, of New York State.
We feel like we have made an innovation in composting technique. So what we have done is we have taken natural systems through this new science that's called biomimicry. In everything that we do, we mimic nature. Greenway is like a mushroom. Our proposals like spores. And sometimes a spore will fall on fertile ground and it'll grow. And sometimes it will fall on concrete and it'll die. With that kind of philosophy, All we have to do is, like this mushroom, is send out enough spores, to send out enough proposals, and some of them are going to move to a project, and some of them aren't.
I'm looking at this two ways. One way would be, because of the business we're in, we're often up against municipal or county or whatever you want to call it, that have unlimited funds. And we don't have the ability to even apply for that kind of money, for those jobs. So in that way, that is a really difficult obstacle to overcome. You know, and I think individuals are the secret to it. Community is clearly the secret.
Push that up and fill that gap here.
Fortunately, our abilities are such that we really deliver. Because a lot of times people say, well, if you could get that grant, I'll have you do the job, but we're not eligible to even get that. And I would say that has in some ways been an obstacle, but it's also tightened us even more. That it's like, oh, well, we're not able to get that. And I think on our personal life, things that have really made us so close and so tight are our families.
May I ask a question of
One of our
Josephine?
grandchildren who was born very, very.
Oh, excuse me, the video's still on. Sorry.
Oh, Neil, well, you already started. Go ahead. What's the question?
Hi, Josephine. My question, and hi, Shabazz. If you can't get contracts, have you ever been able to be a subcontractor to a larger company that has gotten a contract?
We have developed this public-private partnership with the town of Hurley, and now with that, which is when you think of with solid waste, the government has complete control over solid waste, so you can't implement your systems without partnering with government.
I see.
You know, it's not like any, you know, like putting up a building or, you know, sewer system. It's not like that. It's, you know, so for example, the Resource Recovery Agency is putting out an RFP, has put out an RFP on April 11th. And it's due May 23rd or so. And in that RFP, there is no provision for zero waste. So, you know, we sent in a comment pointing that out. And it is, without that RFP favors a dirty MRF and a pyrolysis. It favors mass disposal. And just the way it's written, just the way it asks, you know, what it asks for is a price per ton for receiving everything that they're currently sending to Seneca Meadows.
Yeah.
So we have presented before, like if you were to Google or search statement of interest, Ulster County statement of interest, our response to that 2023 comes up first. So in that response is how we would utilize the existing infrastructure to develop zero waste in Ulster County. And Ulster County has infrastructure that includes transfer stations, it includes equipment, it includes staff, and it includes a place to actually manage the material. So when you look at zero waste for Ulster County, you have to manage 100 120,000 tons of material. Where and how are you going to do that? Well, here in Ulster County, they invested in the 80s, $200 million.
Wow.
No other county did that. No other county did that. They invested $200 million in this system. If you had to do that in 2025 dollars, it would be $750 million that they have here.
Wow.
And we go to other counties. We were just in Putnam County. They have nothing. There's nothing to work with. There's no place to do it.
It really is a very big compliment to the planners and citizens of Ulster County, that they invested at the right. Yes, of course, Manna Joe, I'm sure was involved.
Well, I was there. It was Manna Joe.
Yeah.
And
It's a
with
great-
a lot of help from my friends.
Yeah, and I remember years ago hearing Manna Joe say, when we were talking about incinerators in all the counties surrounding you guys, that you never went through that, anti-incineration organizing because your planners never considered it. So it really shows how profitable for a county it could be to be ahead of the game.
But
I was able to Google some stuff. I think Paul Conant had this weekly or monthly newsletter.
Yeah, it was called Waste Not.
Manna knows better than me. It was a thing. There was a real threat of an incinerator being built in Ulster County, right?
There was, and I remember at a meeting where Malcolm Purney was considering proposing that instead of what ended up being 7 and then 3 landfills that never got built. But within earshot of the primary people at Malcolm Purney, because the League of Women Voters and so many other groups had looked at incineration and knew how dirty and harmful it was. And I said, Malcolm Purney's too smart to try to build an incinerator in Ulster County.
Good for you.
And after that, there was not a peep out of them in terms of incineration. So
that is a great story.
Well, what about this? Have you had a chance to look at this RFP that?
Yes, and thanks to Judy Malstrom, who forwarded it to us. Our team.
Are we talking about 2 RFPs? Because
the RFP from Dutchess County.
Shabazz, you're talking about the Ulster one,
I'm
right?
talking about the RFP from the Resource Recovery Agency.
No, excuse me, I have not seen that. I thought you were referring to the Dutchess County RFP.
No.
All right. We also let's play the rest of. There's only 2 or 3 minutes left of the Greenway video, and I like the discussion. I don't mean to throw ice water on the fire of the fermenting discussion. But let's just finish the video. Hold on a second. Boom. What happened to it? No. There it is. Okay.
And we would drive down from Poughkeepsie down to Brooklyn every single day after work, and we'd stay in the NICU with her. And then we've had recently a number of family members who really needed us a lot. I think, to me, that has even deepened our connection. Oh, I'm building this house with all the fighting, right?
Most people build a house to live in, but we built this house to die. From our families, we saw what the end-of-life process was about. I wanted this house to function for us when we are in the end-of-life process. The kitchen, the bedrooms, the spaces, the doorways. This house is designed to have someone in a hospital bed move from the bedroom suite through the house and out that door and out to that patio. I imagine myself right, in the bed, and I'm holding my fluids. Someone is wheeling me in the bed out to take the sun.
So I'm glad to know that we can keep this house and, you know, no one has to worry about us. We're not gonna fall downstairs. We can get pushed around if we need an aid, you know. I mean, we're talking 95 years old. We're not, you know, but that's the reality, is we're all gonna die. And like, look, this is real and we need to think that way. And I think this house, because it is net zero. So even as we age, our finances will be able to maintain that we have this very, very low cost house. And I'm just going to keep fighting till that comfortable end of life here. You know, I'm not giving up.
Composting is a natural process. It's the process that actually created life on Earth. And it's the foundation of everything.
Great picture.
I see there's 20 seconds left though.
My daughter and I have a little joke. We go, well, we know we're going to die. She goes, yeah, but not you and me. You know.
Well, I just wanted to share briefly, Dave and I had the opportunity, I've actually been in that house, because we took my annual visit back home to the East Coast. And so it's pretty impressive. My parents are sort of hippies. So the first thing I said, I didn't mean it to be insulting. I meant it as a compliment. This is a hippie house. And, but I didn't realize the whole piece about, and I'm 61. God help us all. I'm going to be 62 this December. So that's pretty smart and innovative to create that house for aging out of this planet. Mike says, is this a current UC RRA RFP that includes pyrolysis? And Manna's saying yes.
Yes.
Wow.
But it's not, it's not, it's what it excludes that makes it worse, because when you look back at the statement of interest and the way that was written, it really gave points for a zero waste solution. Whereas this one, there's no way to even implement a zero waste solution because the RFP doesn't ask for it. So your answer, you know, they can just take the answer and toss it out the window, because this is not what we're asking for. We're asking for a place to send our trucks, you know, our transfer trucks to, instead of Seneca Meadows.
And if I could, that's because the local solid waste management plan that was put together by Cornerstone and the agency and approved by the legislature was very weak in terms of the waste diversion strategies and zero waste. And we acknowledged that and started to prepare a zero waste plan for Ulster County, which Mike has worked on and Neil has helped us with, and certainly Greenway. And it is unfinished. So, but I just want to say that the legislature acknowledged that deficit in the local solid waste plan, and it's being perpetuated in this request for a proposal. And we just sent everything back to committee because they're not doing what they need to do yet to achieve maximum waste diversion. And I'll talk
So-
more about it when it's my turn. Sorry.
So when is it your turn?
Just
I
just
think I'm
about.
after Neil.
'Cause you-
I'm not sure of the order.
No, I think Manna, you were here. I love you all dearly, but I think Manna, you were here first. So we're gonna Neil. Don't kill me. I don't want.
It's not a problem. I love
just
listening
seems-
to Manna
It just
Joe.
seems improper to. So I think Manna's next, if you don't mind. But before
Not at all.
So what is the current status of that RFP that was issued April 11th?
I think it's still out there. The sequence is that Cornerstone did a report and recommended 2 landfill sites in Warsing and a possible third other site. But we have very serious concerns about the process they used and the size of the landfills that.
But wait a minute. This RFP, let's focus in on that because it doesn't mention any landfill at all.
Well,
so this RFP is due. It's due.
Okay.
Right? May 23rd. And you know how much work a response is to a document like that. You know how much work that is.
It was a faulty document. It was decided that they would look for alternative technologies before citing a landfill, but they have to redo the landfill study because there are some serious faults in it.
But this document
let me just
favors. It favors.
On May 6th, I believe, the Energy, Environment, and Sustainability Committee will meet, and let's be sure that they are aware not only is the landfill siting process faulty, but the RFP was faulty. But I want to say what they're doing right, or at least moving in the right direction, and that is they have sought and got approval for funding and bonding to create a reuse innovation center. And it will have what's called a hub and spoke. So Shabazz, you mentioned that we have that infrastructure. I believe we have 19 transfer stations in Ulster County, and they can be the spokes for all the materials that can be diverted, including certainly food waste and organics for composting, but also large bulky items, construction and demolition materials, and all the reusable materials that might need to be repaired or refurbished. But they are moving forward to a reuse innovation center, which we hope will be named after John Wackman, who started the very effective repair cafes in Ulster County and throughout the Mid-Hudson region. So what is being shown here is some information from this reuse innovation center and the feasibility study. This, however, did not include the hub and spoke system, which means that the materials that are able to be either reduced, repaired, refurbished, and ultimately reused, first can do so at the local transfer station, and then after a certain amount of time, when a truckload is full, they can take it to a central hub where it will be made available. And if that includes repairing or renovation, et cetera, it'll be made available. And for those things, for example, mattresses that cannot be reused. They can be taken apart and the contents can be recycled. So all of that is a waste diversion system, and it's based on taking advantage of the fact that we have so many transfer stations. And I will do everything I can to make sure that the decisions that are made by the RRA include zero waste and the system that you have and are developing in Hurley and hopefully in Saugerties, two very important municipalities. So I just wanted to put that system on the table. One of the things it does not include is actual C&D recycling, but it will include if the materials are able to be made available to builders and contractors, there will be some C&D reuse, and certainly doors and windows. There is more that can be done in that regard, but and they are also looking to expand their composting facility, and unfortunately the DEC's been very slow in acting on that. But the sequence is the RFP, and then they hope to proceed with in-depth studies of the landfill, which we think is going to be very costly and invasive, and we need to be sure that if they're going to be doing studies to site a landfill, that it's a viable site. So we're not putting good money after bad, but we're also caught in a situation where Seneca Meadows is likely to close or not be able to accept out of area waste in 5 years. And so we have 5 years to get it right. And the legislature did decide that the path that they're on needs improving. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but that'll all come out at Energy and Environment early in May. And I thank you for making me aware of that deficit, and I'll certainly be pointing it out ahead of time and at that meeting.
Well, you know, the RFP has an opportunity for what's called an addendum. And, you know, we sent in a comment. Well, we will send you a copy of it, and to everyone. We sent it in to Mark Ryder, and we never heard anything from him. And if he added our comments to the addendum and sent it out, we would feel comfortable in putting in a bid. And it would be a bid to recover 90%, including the construction and demolition debris of the county through this system. And we have you know, several new companies that want to partner with us to really accomplish this. And those companies are 100% committed to zero waste and recycling and composting. You know, so there's opportunity to deliver now that we never had before. And it's like it's not fair. It's not fair, because if you look at, you can see our entire approach to zero waste in Ulster County. It's on the RRA website. If you Google statement of interest, and we responded to that statement of interest right along with 5 other companies. If you look at the statement of interest, we had the best proposal because the design parameters were linked to the state's climate smart
The hierarchy.
more than pledge elements. It
Yes.
was linked to the state's climate smart pledge elements, and those are the design parameters. The RFP that you have now has no design parameters. It has the point system, but there's no way to evaluate the different proposals because there's no design parameters the way the SOI did. So there's a lot wrong with that, but we're being totally ignored, and the opportunity to utilize the investment that we have made is not being taken advantage of.
I agree, and let's see what we can do about it. But I do want to say that it is very hopeful that they have an excellent facility adjacent to the Kingston Airport and directly across 299 from where their facility is located, so that if materials come into the UCRA that can become part of the circular economy and be refurbished and reused, they just move it essentially across the street, and vice versa if there are materials that have to either be exported or go to a landfill, that can be arranged easily. So I think that that's a very positive step forward. And if we can blend the two, we'll end up having Ulster County not only become a model of sound solid waste management, but it'll also mean that if we're able to cite and wisely cite a landfill in Ulster County, it can be smaller, it will last longer, and it will remove the source of odors, will reduce the truck traffic, and ultimately save the $11 million a year that is going into exporting our waste halfway across the state to Seneca Meadows, which isn't going to be able to receive it probably in 5 years. So we're on a tight timeline. They want to rely on their engineering firm, and unfortunately, the engineering firm, I have some good evidence, is not doing the job they need to do in terms of landfill siting, and the agency is not doing the job it needs to in terms of including zero waste and the plan that you're proposing to the statement of interest. So let's see what we can do about that and keep Ulster County on the track that the original, I think it was called Citizen Advisory Group, that included Sierra Club, League of Women Voters, Chamber of Commerce, all the sectors were represented, and they had a vision that Ulster County would maximize waste diversion and be able to site a landfill based on the best science available, and with a good host community plan, reducing the odors, reducing the truck traffic, etc., we can make this work. So I remain optimistic, but it's been a long haul, and we don't have much time. So let's work together and get this done right.
All right. And
I'd like to add a couple comments if I could on that. So first, it's disturbing to hear that they're looking into pyrolysis or any of that kind of stuff. Shabazz, if you can share a link to that RFP with me, I'd love to see it, and feel free to point out any parts that I ought to be paying attention to. And Manna, Joe, and Shabazz, we should all probably talk about this pretty soon, offline. So I think there are ways that I might be able to help. But I've seen a lot of places from Hawaii to Florida to all over that do these RFPs to just say, oh, we just want to see what's out there. And when they're exploring all these failed technologies, from pyrolysis to gasification to plasma arc to waste to fuel schemes, and some that are only semi-failed, like mixed waste processing, and throw everything in one bin and hope that robots and no-wage workers will sort it all out and have marketable material. And it's like they haven't bothered to even just Google and find all the numerous other places that have already looked into these things and decided not to do them before they go throwing more public money and wasting more time exploring the same things and paying consultants to get rich copying the same reports they just gave to the last county. So I hope that they abandon that effort if it's anything like what I'm imagining it is, or from what I'm hearing. But as far as a new landfill, I really support and commend Manna Joe and others who have been saying that the right thing to do is to have a small county-owned, publicly owned landfill for the county's waste. And I'm hoping to encourage that to be the model for how landfills can be managed, because we don't have to have them full of incinerator ash, which makes them smaller but more toxic, or full of organic waste, which makes them stinky and leaky. So there are ways to do the back end of a zero waste system if you do everything else properly, especially keeping a lot of that, at least the clean organics, out of there, and then processing the dirty organics so that they're stabilized. And there's just a lot of other nuances to how to manage a landfill well, so it doesn't have to be what everyone fears it normally is. So hopefully we can get there and make that a model that can inspire other places.
Amen to that. And I want to get to Neil and Elliot and my mom and Dave. I just want to point out a couple things. I wanted to give credit where credit is due, and I think Doreen Tignanelli back in summer a couple of years ago sent me an email that the solid waste management plan for Dutchess County is up for review and renewal. And so Neil, you and I and my mom and Mike, we launched a series of weekly Zoom meetings, and Manna, you were in on a bunch of those, and Shabazz, I think you were as well. I think Dave, you joined us for a bunch. And we, the very first amendment that Yvette Valdez-Smith, who's been the minority leader for the Dutchess County Legislature, the top Democrat in the Dutchess County Legislature, she submitted, not this past winter, but 2 winters ago, was for a RFP for a zero waste plan. And then Lisa Call's budget amendment a year later, which is this past December, actually passed. And the official Dutchess County government website said, this is for a zero waste plan. Now, my mom sent an email to Kerry Russell, who's the solid waste commissioner, the deputy Dutchess County solid waste commissioner, as to, because the official Dutchess County, there was an official saying this is, there was a bipartisan, Republicans were bragging, just like the Democrats, we're moving towards zero waste. We're issuing an RFP for a zero waste report. Well, this was my mom asked for an update. This is what Kerry Russell responded with. My mom said, has a request for a proposal been written or issued yet? Have any consultants responded? Could you email us a copy of the RFP? We made the point 2 years ago that any such consultant should be one certified by the Zero Waste International Alliance. We hope this is the case as well. Could you update on this too? This is what Kerry Russell wrote back. On Wednesday, April 2nd, Dutchess County published an RFP for a waste reduction and diversion study. Upon further review, the language on the floor of the legislature, as well as the adopted amendment and clarification, and after the release, it was the intention of the study to be a solid waste reduction study, not a zero waste study, and the RFP was written accordingly. And Kerry Russell actually said as well, Lisa Call didn't seem to have any problem with this. I fully understand if Lisa was sort of backed into a corner because the Democrats are in the minority, as something is better than nothing. As Fred Bundle used to jab his finger into my chest, my colleague in the county legislature, the perfect is the enemy of the good. but I'm just letting everybody know, if you haven't seen or heard about this, and I was raising hell about this in December, January, and February over the last 4 or 5 months. That thing that everybody was so happy about, and not just the Democrats and zero waste activists, but the Republicans are bragging about in December, it's not going to be a zero waste, or it could be, maybe, but it's not that the RFP is not written that way. It's just, I mean, it's something is better than nothing, but it's a waste reduction.
Yeah, they're following the same footsteps as I've seen in DC and in Westchester County, where the demands were around zero waste, but they decided to hijack that because they're in bed with incinerators and say, oh, we're going to do a waste reduction study, which sounds nice and sounds like it might be the same thing, but it's totally not. And anyone who knows the definition of zero waste well versus what the EPA's hierarchy or things that are just called waste reduction tend to mean, you find out pretty quickly that they're just going to keep the system centered around incineration and then do some nice things around the fringes, but not threaten the underlying model, which they call integrated, which is a term for, and that includes incineration. So if you see the word integrated, know it's a code word. So hopefully they won't follow the same footsteps in Westchester and choose not to hire the zero waste consultants who will be responding to the RFP and going with the typical consultant that generally perpetuates the status quo. But we'll see. I fear the worst, but we'll.
Amen. And so I don't think it would hurt for people who live in Dutchess County or people who live 2,500 miles away like me, for people to raise hell about this. I mean, I've been putting it on Facebook. I've been putting in my email about what's the latest, greatest. Just a few more things, and then I promise, Neil, you're on, and Eliot and my mom and Dave. I didn't know. I've been hearing and reading forever that so much of garbage in Dutchess County is sent up to Seneca Meadows. So I didn't know until, Manna, you said that a few minutes ago about that 5-year deadline. That's big. That's huge. That's number one. Number two is, I feel guilty because when I was living in Dutchess County, Mike kind of warned me, and I think Neil may have kind of warned me, that if I was a really, truly responsible zero waste activist and a responsible legislator, I would be clear and straightforward with voters and taxpayers, saying that, you know what, we're not going to be able to, we should shut the incinerator right away, and that garbage should be trucked to, you know, the landfills, because that's how bad incineration is. That's how polluting it is. And so, and that's, I know, part of, I think, the Montgomery County or the Baltimore zero waste plan. I know Mike and Neil, who wrote that plan, can speak better than I, but I'm just kind of being upfront about that. I also wanted to briefly allude to Shabazz, as I've seen his operations, the odors problem. Food waste composting is notoriously odorific and smelly sometimes, not the way that Shabazz and Josephine do it, with the biomimicry. They've mastered the biochemistry over years and decades. So I just wanted to point that out. And so that's the only other thing I was going to say. So zerowasteny.org, that has the information about the conference. My mom works on Wednesdays. She's going to try to get the transportation up on the Thursday one, May 1st. But I know that it's going to be very interesting because I know that Mike and Neil, nobody in here is in love with landfills, right? We're in love with, you know, 90%, 95%, 99% recycling, composting rate. But landfills are way cleaner, way less polluting than incinerators. And I know there's some very strong anti-landfill advocates, even some presentations happening in Albany, because I'm dying. I want to be a fly on the wall for that conversation, and up in Albany, but I can't make it anyway. But I hope that some people are going to be videoing and YouTubing live, or for posterity, people, especially like my mom, who can't be up there on the Wednesday, people are videoing and going to be putting so people can watch that. All right, I've talked enough. Neil, on to you, sir.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. I'm anxious to keep the dialogue going and listen to Eliot. But I'll pick up on what we've just been talking about. First, to say that I think there's one other benefit from a publicly owned landfill. Legally, a publicly owned landfill can restrict what's going into the landfill. And this is absolutely critical, and I'll give you one dramatic example. In the late 18, I'm in the wrong century. In the late 1980s, my colleague at Zero Waste USA was put in charge of the San Diego County landfill. It's a very populous county, I think maybe 8 or 9 million people. And in 3 years, because it was a publicly owned landfill, he cut the flow into that landfill by 50%. And he did it by literally, excuse the rhetoric, he put a cop at the landfill gate. And if the waste had, if the trucks had, excuse me, or materials to be composted, organics or recyclables, they were not allowed into the landfill. The second thing he did was he put a $1, and then it got raised to $1.50 tipping surcharge to the tip fee at the landfill. And he collected several $1 million, and that money was put right back into the county in the hands of all the towns, villages, and cities in the county to build the composting and recycling infrastructure that allowed them to reduce all the waste to the landfill. So the point being, in addition to the great analysis that Mike and Energy Justice Network has done on comparing landfills pollution to incineration pollution, that public ownership is important for that political reason and legal reason as well. I also think that the theme of the conference that's coming up that Mike and Joe mentioned in last day of April and then May 1 is to bring about consensus among New York activists all across the state to come together with a comprehensive concept and then follow it up after the meeting with planning and organizing. And publicly owned landfills is a critical factor in making New York State a zero waste state. It takes care of the waste inside the state, and it will allow the state not to have to send garbage to Pennsylvania or Virginia. I do believe that New York State is the biggest state, is exporting the most garbage of any state. And whereas an incinerator spreads pollution hundreds of miles, a zero waste system with good, well-managed and well-designed landfills will not spread pollution the way the incinerator, and New York State can become self-reliant in the management of all the materials in the waste stream, recycling, composting, reuse. And with a zero waste system, maybe 10 to 15% of the existing garbage will go into a landfill, which would be inert and much less dangerous than current landfills, which leach and produce liquids and produce methane. So public ownership is a big part of landfills, and I won't. Historically, the federal government screwed local governments when it in the 1980s and 90s it passed RCRA, Resource Conservation and Recovery Act. It provided no funds for local government to rehabilitate their landfills or plan new landfills. The federal government did the exact opposite when it came to sewage treatment and provided billions of dollars to cities and counties to build tertiary treatment plants. So the result is that we now have big monopoly companies controlling the landfills, or local monopolies controlling landfills, which cannot keep out of area garbage out because of federal law. So the conference, I'm looking forward to it, seeing old friends and meeting people from around the state. Everyone here, of course, is invited. Please make it. I do believe, just got a report from BP, who works with Energy Justice Network, and he's really been a great coordinator for this coming up conference. He told me that the Zoom infrastructure will be there for the conference so we can record it and so forth. The last thing I want to say, excuse me, is that a bit of encouragement in Hennepin County, Minneapolis, Hennepin County, Minnesota, where Minneapolis is located, and in Montgomery County, Maryland. The citizens are getting closer and closer. It's within reach to shut down those 2 incinerators. So I would just want to say that to encourage folks in Ulster County to kill this stupid plan for anything like incineration, as well as the activists in Dutchess and Westchester. And that's about it. Really looking forward to seeing everybody at the conference. Manna, I believe you're signed up to go, which is great. And Judy, will love to see you on the second day of the conference. So that's it for me. And thanks for coordinating this. It's been a great discussion so far.
Amen. I agree. Thank you, Neil. Before we go to Eliot and my mom and Stoop Dog, aka Dave Heller, yeah, you kind of touched on something I was going to mention. I know that Mike's website, energyjustice.org, the Energy Justice Network, I think has a list of, I don't know how many different incinerators that have been avoided or shut down. And I think, Neil, thank you for reminding us and inspiring us about the Minnesota and Maryland stories in Hennepin County and Montgomery County. And Neil, you've written about Austin, Texas.
Yes.
Detroit, there was one shut down. But before we go to Eliot, my mom, and Dave, could you just remind us of some of those stories, the Austin story, the Detroit story, where incinerators have been avoided or shut down, that it's actually possible?
Oh, definitely. In Detroit, it took a long time, and there were a number of reasons that drove up the cost of incineration, and the owner of the privately owned plant decided to shut it down rather than make the investments to clean up the facility. Recent shutdowns, and Mike can provide more details than I. Recent shutdowns have been at least 2 in California. Stanislaus County shut down, and Long Beach, a very large incinerator, was shut down earlier this year. I believe it was in January. Well,
actually, they were both last year, but the California ones.
Yeah,
January was the latest one. That was Oregon. The last one, the state of Oregon closed because of a law that we wrote a couple years ago.
As I said, Mike has the details on these. But over the years, let's say from the 80s to now, I would say close to 400 incinerators have been prevented by early action by citizens, and they're being shut down now on a regular basis, as Mike's Energy Justice Network webpage documents, which is great. I want to just say that I've worked, it really is inspiring to work with community groups mobilized to shut these things down. I had the privilege of working in LA in the 80s, where citizens, Black, brown, and white citizens, environmentalists, and community people prevented a plan of building 5 incinerators, if you can imagine that, within the city, all scheduled for low-income and minority communities. Austin, Texas, the same thing. Austin did something that no one has ever done before. There is a great community organizer there, Gail Vittori. She did so much in whipping the community together. Among the great facts there, that she worked with the economists from the big University of Texas, and they showed the city council that the plant was under construction already. $22 million had been spent. And she pointed out that over the 20-year life of the proposed plant, it would cost the community $120 million more than if they shifted to recycling, composting, and landfilling. And the city council, there was a new city council membership with a heavy representation from the real estate industry, and those guys were scared stiff of increasing taxes. And once they heard about the 120 million bill tax supported expenditures, they voted to eat the $22 million and shut down construction. And that was very, very exciting, I can assure you. And then in Alachua County, one of my favorite stories is they wanted to build an incinerator, and a housewife, Penny Wheat, went to a county council meeting, excuse me, and came out in opposition to the incinerator for all the reasons we know. And she was told to go back to her kitchen, literally. And she went back to her kitchen and started a campaign to run for county council. She won with more votes than had ever been voted for in that community. And she became a very effective leader. And I worked with her. We not only killed the incinerator, but we put together a plan for a resource recovery park, which is an industrial park just for recycling, composting, and reuse companies. Incidentally, Austin did the same thing under the leadership of Bob Geddert, Geddert, who is also a super thinker in our field. And he put together a document which is still relevant today. It was called the Austin Zero Waste Business Plan. And in that plan, it showed that investing in recycling, composting, and reuse is actually an economic development policy, in addition to protecting the community from incinerators and bad landfills. So there are many stories. I can't start thinking of them, but up in Boston, outside of Boston, forget the name of the town. Maybe it was New Bedford or one of those industrial, Lawrence. I think it was Lawrence, Massachusetts. Very exciting meetings. The the city council voted on a deal with BFI, Browning Ferris Industries, to build an incinerator, and the town was going to get free disposal for life if they would allow the company to build a 3,000 ton per day incinerator. And there was one woman, I forget her name. Really, these are inspiring leaders, such as we have in Manna, Joe, and Judy, and Shabazz and Josephine. A woman got up and said, if you remember, the vote was 9-0 to build the incinerator, and she got up and said, if you vote for this incinerator, I will never vote for you again, and my children will never vote for you again. And in that town, you had to pass a bill twice. So they passed 9-0 in favor of the incineration, and 1 week later they had a vote. And this woman was very credible. She was she worked on Wall Street, very sophisticated about financing. And that vote the next week changed from 9-0 in favor of the incinerator to 8-1 to cancel it, because of this inspiring woman mobilizing her community and using that phrase to the politicians that the next generation will not be voting for them.
What city again was that?
I think I'll have to check. I think it was Lawrence, Massachusetts, which is a neighboring town to Boston. It's very prominent in American labor history. Factory Girls was written about the women coming from off the farm, living in dormitories and working 10 hours a day in the factory. It's a very interesting book. So there's a lot of history to that town. There was a major national strike there. There are posters, art posters about it. People could look up that city has a big industrial history. We will continue to work in Ulster, Dutchess, and Westchester County, also Sullivan County. Someone raised the idea of an incinerator there. In fact, I heard that Sullivan County wanted to partner with Ulster County on its incinerators. So the work in Ulster County is even more critical, because we don't want to give Sullivan County a doorway to get involved in an incinerator. And we have great activists there, Linda Reich, Rebecca, forget Rebecca's last name, but like you folks in Ulster and Dutchess, it seems like it's a natural progression.
There's a new group there called Sustainable Sullivan County that we've been organizing with,
yes.
Having meetings every other week. It's Rebecca Kreshkoff and Sophia Ikmedina are the leaders of that.
Great. Thank you, Mike, for filling that in. But it just shows, as I was saying, that you announce an incinerator and the community reacts in the right way. Naturally, some people take the leadership, which is what we need, and it fulfills Aristotle's description of a noble citizen, a citizen who pays attention, who takes action, and stays involved. So you activists, we activists are just great democratic citizens. I see Manna Joe has her hand up.
Yeah, if I could just quickly add, what they're thinking in Sullivan County is they'll build the incinerator and we'll take their bottom ash and fly ash and over my dead body. I don't know how many more years I'm going to be on this planet, but that ain't going to happen.
I'm with you, Manna Joe.
But if you build a landfill, how would you stop that?
Well, for one thing, if it's a publicly owned landfill, you could pass an ordinance saying no ash. You could also say no recyclables and no compostables and no reusables, and set up the infrastructure as they did in my example in San Diego County, so that each town and city and village in the county has the proper infrastructure to do all three of those key elements of zero waste: recycling, composting, and reuse.
Publicly owned landfills can also say no out of county waste, and most of them tend to do that.
Absolutely. You can make it just for the waste, or materials, I should say, generated in the county itself.
What if you use state money?
Yeah. In fact, I will be proposing at our meeting coming up in Albany that's been discussed. I am going to recommend that we activists push for a $2 billion bond issue in the state to support local governments building their own landfills. And I think that's a very saleable politically, because it means funneling lots of money into the local economy under the authority of local government, which local governments love. And it's the citizens' burden to make sure that when that money comes in, if this happens, that money is used for a zero waste landfill, meaning one that's completely secure, using the best standards. And Mike Ewall can help everybody on what the best standards are for landfills, but also literally to put a cop at the gate of the landfill to keep the items out that could be returned to the economy. So it is legally possible. And as I said before, it could be made politically saleable by pointing out that the money from this bond issue will flow to local government.
Well, where is the support for zero waste?
Well, that's one of the missions of this meeting, to build, to not only to build, it's already there, but to strengthen across the state with activists from all over the state to promote zero waste. I was just at the UN. Zero waste is the new paradigm at the UN. There were incredible speeches by government representatives all across Asia, Africa, South and Latin America, all pledging, and some of them have actually started putting together the infrastructure for zero waste. And we've already discussed with them. The UN up until now says that incinerators are, a reasonable part of the solid waste strategy, and we're beating back on that. And I can just liken it to the civil rights movement. It takes building, it takes a lot of citizen time, and one of the goals of our meeting coming up in April and May is to come up with strategies to spread the word that zero waste is not only an environmental program, but it is a very reliable economic development program. I'm working with people in Albany. There's going to be a new mayor in Albany coming. Well, the Democratic primary is in June, and there's at least one person running on a zero waste platform. His name is Dan I'll check it. I think it's I will check it and put it in the chat. So Cerruti, Cerutti, Dan Cerruti, and he is going to be at the conference. He can't be there on the first day, but he'll be there May 1st, and we'll be able to talk to him, and he'll be able to continue his learning curve on zero waste. But Shabazz, you got it right. The citizens have to make this happen, and the citizens have to be knowledgeable and organized, and that's one of the reasons why we called for this conference.
Amen. I just wanted to just jump in. Neil Seldman, for decades, top recycling, composting, zero waste expert across the country. Neil, I remember back in 2009 when you and I first met, we're working together. We actually got the Dutchess County Legislature to unanimously pass a resolution. The Obama stimulus funds were a thing then, the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act. 25-0 resolution was passed for the Dutchess County Department of Planning to try to draw down some of that federal stimulus funds for zero waste planning on a Dutchess County level. And even Rob Rolison, who's currently a Republican conservative member of the New York State Senate representing Dutchess County, Rob Rolison was a Republican who voted for that. Then even Rob Weiss did. Just a couple things, and I run out.
Joe, let me just say this: that we are the conservatives. We want to conserve the air, water, and soil. We want to conserve natural resources. So we should not be shy of letting people know we're conservatives, and we are the better conservatives than the traditional conservatives who want to build and bury build and burn, etc.
Of course, that's true. Edmund Burke. Of course, yep. I was environmental committee chair back then for 2 years of the county legislature. I got like 30 resolutions passed, a lot of them with bipartisan support, and Steinhaus, the county executive, basically would not implement any of them because he considered, kind of like what's going on in Washington now, you know, it's county government was his government. The county commissioners could be fired at will, and they were reminded they could be fired at will. Anyway, just a couple things real briefly, and then Eliot, my mom, and Dave, and everybody else. The Austin Zero Waste Business Plan, that reminds me of the Rick Anthony analysis. Neil, I think it'd be great if somehow the $2 billion pitch for landfills, you know, like San Diego County had that infrastructure set up on a local level. I think part of that $2 billion, or maybe it should be even bigger, so that the money is not just for landfills, but also to help the recycling infrastructure.
Yeah, I didn't say it, but right. That was in the $2 billion would be for landfills and zero waste policies, which are related to landfills.
And then just about all garbage, you know, breaking into the 12 categories. I know, Neil, you always used to reference a Rick Anthony analysis of the real value that these materials have. I would love to see an update of that for Dutchess County, or at least for New York State. If you could talk to Rick Anthony or one of your buddies about, like, how much value does the quote unquote garbage materials in New York State have that we're just literally flushing down the drain. And I know that I guess, Neil, you and Mike and Manna have been working on an Ulster County zero waste plan. I don't know what's going to happen with the RFP, but if this RFP thing goes south in Dutchess County, don't be surprised if I am from 2,500 miles away, gently trying to press you to work on a zero, and we'll try to raise the money or crowdfund it or whatever. The only other thing I was going to say is, and I've waited way too long to let my mom and Eliot and Dave speak, is that in Oregon, right, all they want is transparency. We just want to know what the emissions are. We just want continuous monitoring of the emissions, right? And then these incinerators or companies are afraid to operate. And because New York State is a local home rule state, Dutchess County can pass a clean air ordinance to tighten up air standards. The town of Poughkeepsie, which is where the Dutchess County incinerator is located, can do that as well. They have a wonderful progressive Democratic majority. Anyway, I just wanted to briefly reference that. And Eliot, don't kill me. I want to go to my mom just for a second, because Mom, did you or did you not just organize a wonderful tour of Shabazz's stuff with some very important town of Clinton people? Mom, did you want to show us some of the trash to treasure stuff? Turn on that camera, Mom.
You know, I took myself off mute, but every time I get on one of these Zoom meetings and listen to everybody, I get so full of information that I forget everything that I'm thinking is a past. All I can say now is that I've been traveling, and in that I've gone to a number of airports. A lot of them, in fact, all of them have had 3 containers, one for garbage, one for recyclables, and one for paper. It's amazing, and I'm so pleased to see that kind of thing happening across the country. And also, even in our state, Penn Station, in their food courts, I noticed are packaging their foods differently, that they're using a lot of paper bags instead of plastic containers and so on and so forth. It's kind of, I think there are people who are trying to do something, but it's taking such a long time to do it, and there's so much to do. But I've been kind of, it's been good to see. I also realize that more people know about zero waste than I think we realize. They just don't know what to do about it. We're all in the same boat. We're the ones who are buying these things packaged the way they are. We're the ones who are buying plastic. We're the ones who are paying for it, not only to be packaged, but then to use it and then get rid of it. So I just don't think a lot of people know what to do, and that's where we have to work. That's the work we have to do. We have to, it is up to the individual. Everybody has to do their part. We can do better, and we have to do better. It's just a must. So that's kind of, there's so much to do that I can't think anymore. I mean, I really have. I take notes, copious notes. So
I have
you
6
guys
pages
are
of
so
notes. I
inspiring.
know it's 9:45 over there on the East Coast, but go ahead, Mom.
I mean, there's so much there's so much to do, but one of the things we need to do is to tell people about zero waste. They have got to know. They've got to know there's a way out. We can't just say shut down the incinerator without giving them the means to take care of the garbage. And I think we have it. It's a great solution, and that's where I work constantly. I did get a couple of people from my town to go to Shabazz Greenway project in New Paltz, and we were all very impressed. It's a great compost facility, and it shows how it can be done simply and well. And I think we're going to start talking about the possibility of having a community garden in Clinton. At least I'm going to bring that up, and a compost facility in an area that has really been just an open field that we could easily use. And there are a lot of pros and cons, but I think there are a lot more pros to this issue, and that's what I'll be working on for the next couple of months.
Well, you know, when we have done, you know, a number of audits in our contract with Hurley, and what we found was that the packaging was only about 6% of the weight of the waste.
Really? That I find amazing.
So
6%.
what we have, and we invite, you know, I invite you.
Oh, you mean the waste part?
Of the
not considering cardboard boxes and paper and all of that.
Yeah, everything. You know, so we have people, we set them up with the earth machine that you saw at the church. And we give them scales, we give them clipboards, we tell them that this earth machine and the setup and all of the odor control blend and all of the stuff that we've created to allow you to manage the stuff in your house with no flies and no odors. That has a basically a $290 value. You're going to get this. The town is giving you this in exchange for weighing all your waste and participating in this audit that you know we're doing to understand how much waste the entire community, so we can design at the transfer station the recovery system.
Right.
So now with that, the packaging is only 6 to 8% of the total waste stream.
Wow.
And when you look at the municipal and county waste stream, the recoverable part of the C&D waste stream that will go to the reuse center is only 2 to 3% of the C&D waste stream. So what we have done is we have met the challenge of 90%, and that's what's the classification for zero waste is 90% recovery. And
Shabazz, you're talking about in the town of Hurley with the households or the people that you've been working with, you've gotten them to 90%?
Yes. So now we're going to roll it out. You know, we have applied for a state grant. Part of the grant is going to give away 100 more earth machines and set up 100 more households. Plus, we're going to build a zero waste education and compost training facility at the transfer station. So now this is done totally on the Hurley, by the Hurley taxpayers. And they could not find a single dollar to offset their cost. So what we find is that there's just one money, as my father used to say, and that money, even from this conversation tonight, is focused on landfilling. And there's not $1 available to do that zero waste type of diversion. There's a little bit money for composting, which is what we applied for in Hurley, but composting is just the foundation of zero waste. It's just the foundation, and you have to take the putrescible waste out of your waste basket in order to be able to handle the rest of it. And, you know, even tonight, there's no one talking about how we can support that effort. The county legislature, Eric Stewart, went to the county to ask for $10,000 of discretional funds. He went to the county exec and he was denied. Money has gone into the E&E committee. There's been no request for proposal to spend that money to have zero waste events. And now we put out this RFP, and if it would appear that they looked at my response or our response to the SOI that they put out and developed an RFP that made it so that I could not put together a response to the RFP as it exists right now. So there's too much time spent talking about landfilling and giving lip service to diversion and zero waste, which includes construction and demolition debris, and is the foundation of this whole process.
Shabazz, thank you for that. I have a favor to ask. I just took about 6, 7, 8, 9 pages of notes. Shabazz, do you feel comfortable? Because I'm putting this all on YouTube. It's going to go out in email. Would you be comfortable typing up something like a paragraph or 2 or 3, summing up your thoughts and make it easier so I don't mess up on any misquoting you?
What I'll do is I will send you the comments I made on the Ulster County request for proposal.
And I would like you and me and Mike Ewall to have a call before the May Energy, Environment and Sustainability Committee meeting. Because this is all going to come up there because everything was sent back to committee.
I don't, when you say everything was sent back, it's just from the landfilling.
Well, it's all interconnected because they have a system where they're going to look at alternative technologies and they are going to do a deep and costly and invasive investigation of the 2 sites that were chosen using what I believe was a faulty process.
But people are going to respond to this RFP without our addendum being added to it.
Well, maybe we can get that to happen.
That would be incredible.
All right,
because
and
we would be able to respond, but the way it is right now, the group that I have, I can't explain to them a response that's going to be acceptable the way that RFP is written.
well, let's first of all send it to us, and then let's have a call and see what we can do about it.
Okay.
Love it. And I see Eliot's couch. Maybe Eliot's just listening. I know it's 9:56 p.m. at this point. I see the cat. There's Eliot. I just want to do, at the risk of really trying everybody's patience, there's one thing. I know that Tracy Frisch is going to be presenting, I think on the first day. Neil, could you just talk, because I think this is pertinent perhaps to northern Dutchess municipalities like the town of Clinton. Neil, could you just go, like, just for a few minutes, talk about what's been happening in Warren County, what you and Tracy have been doing, and then I really want to hear from Eliot, because I think Eliot might be interested in this too. I can't hear Neil. I can't hear you.
Got it. Within the last 2 years, Tracy and her group, Zero Waste Warren County, have been working very cooperatively with the county to do 2 things. One, in the composting field, they agreed to invest, I think it was $1.3 million to develop a county composting facility, which is obviously what we want. But secondly, they have convinced the county to rethink their recycling program. Right now, people drop off their recyclables at about 11 different transfer stations. I don't think it's that many. I have to get the exact number. And people commingle all their recyclables, paper, glass, metal, and plastic. And that gets collected and shipped down. I think it goes to a processing facility. They don't go all the way to Albany. but it's down the Northway, the highway, and it's very, very expensive. Over $100 a ton. I think it's approaching $150 a ton. And what they've convinced the county to do, and the county has hired a broker to broker these materials to the end-use markets for all of the recycled materials. At the transfer stations, people are going to keep their materials separate: a bin for metal, bin for plastic, etc. And those materials, source separated, will be put on a truck and taken to an industrial park in Queensbury, which is the largest community in Dutchess County. I think they have close to half.
In Warren County. You mean Warren County?
Warren County. Sorry, Warren County. I believe Queensbury has just about half the population, about 30,000 people in Queensbury. And at that industrial park, there's going to be a facility where all the source separated material is going to be aggregated in 20-ton loads, 20 tons bales of newspaper, metal, plastic. Glass will be handled in big gaylords, these giant cardboard boxes. And the industry that wants those materials will come to that aggregation point and pick up their 20-ton loads. 20 tons is considered the standard for shipping these materials. So by switching to real source separation, not single stream commingled recyclables, Tracy's group calculated that the towns in the county will save $200,000 a year by avoiding the single stream system. The other thing that the county did recently was to invest $500,000 to buy 3 transfer trucks, to do all the hauling in the county, including the waste. And by switching to county-owned facility, county-owned infrastructure trucks, and county-owned workers, of course, the county has estimated that it will save another $200,000 a year. So that's roughly $500,000, plus there'll be more jobs, etc. So it's really an economic boost to the county. It's not a wealthy county. There's a lot of poverty in both the rural areas and even in some of the small towns like Warrensburg and Chestertown. So tip of the hat to Zero Waste Warren County. They've really got the ear of their planners, and they're working cooperatively together. The Scott Royale, the recycling coordinator for Warren County, comes to the monthly meetings of Zero Waste Warren, and there's a great working relationship, and they're really moving forward.
Neil, thank you for that. And there's only 65,000 people in Warren County.
Yeah, and I think roughly half of them live in Queensbury.
And that's less than a quarter of the population of Dutchess County. Dutchess County is about 300,000 people. Warren County is 65,000 people. Now, I know there's a single stream plant in Beacon, Republic, which community ecology, whatever. I'm afraid that's where just about most or all of the recycling in Dutchess County goes to. I don't know what the tipping fee is. Here comes Terry. Anyway, and then I think Neil, you warned us about single stream and the Great Sword policy and the China, but this gets around that. So, and of course, Ryan Hart of Replenish 2 years ago, thanks to you, Neil, he joined us for 1 or 2 of our Zoom meetings, and that's the broker, I believe, that's been working with Warren County.
Yep, that's right.
Terry, can I ask your last name, who you're with, where you're from?
Shapiro. I'm in Ulster County.
Awesome. Thank you, Terry.
Sure.
I don't have your email address, so if you just at the end of the meeting or tomorrow or tonight, whatever, please send me an email at tynerjoel@gmail.com, tynerjoel@gmail.com. I know Shabazz said that just a week or two ago, composting started in the town of Poughkeepsie. Shabazz has also been working with Hudson River Housing, but we have not just one former elected official here and a longtime elected official in Manna Joe Greene. There's another elected official who's been on with us for 2 hours, and I haven't even let him talk. I've known Eliot since I think the 90s and Clinton Watch and gathering at Phyllis Fader's Clinton Vineyards, and now he's not just kibitzing from the back. He's part of the machine, part of the government machine. Number 2 on the Clinton Town Board. Eliot, I don't mean to put you on the spot. What are your thoughts? What are your questions? What do you think?
I can't believe we've known each other that long, Joe. That's my first comment. But anyway, beyond that, I'm really here more of as an observer. I'm not in. I mean, I'm active in local political stuff, of course, and with the town board as a deputy supervisor, but not. I'm not particularly active as environmental causes. I think Neil's been to address one of our board meetings, right? A few months ago, a year ago.
It was nice meeting everybody.
And thank you. And Judy has been involved in all kinds of environmental issues with the town. Also works for the town for many years. Clinton's kind of a funny little place. I think Joel will agree with that, and probably Judy will as well. It's very conservative. Historically, it's been a very, very conservative town. Republican town for many years. It's changing now with second homeowners moving up here from New York, Westchester, other places. Some of these people are retiring and living up here now full time or working remotely. Part of that is a result of COVID, of course, but it was a trend that was already in place prior to COVID. And so the demographics of the town are changing dramatically from, say, for example, when Joel was living here back in the day. And with the changing demographic, of course, comes changing attitudes and changing values of the population and whatnot. We have an active CAC, which has been around for, I don't know, 25 or 30 years. A few years ago, we started a climate smart committee, which started with a few people, now is a going concern. Actually had now has bronze certification through the state. I think it's NYSERDA or some such thing, and they've gotten some grants to do energy audits and things of that sort. So, I mean, there's a movement here. It's slow, which is not surprising. And there's still a lot of inertia, I think, in the town of Clinton. I think Judy will agree with that. I don't know that, for example, composting would really be a viable thing here because of the nature of the community and the fact that many people compost for themselves. And like my wife and I compost ourselves, and I'm sure Judy does the same.
I actually had someone come into the office and ask if there was a composting facility in the town.
Okay, so I stand corrected. So it is changing.
Yeah.
But again, slowly. Now, we did have a recycling, or no, rather, we had a transfer station up until a few years ago, which was not run by the town. It was run by Welch. And after many years, they dropped it because it simply was not viable for them financially. There wasn't enough business. But they used to be open, every Saturday for 2 hours or 4 hours or whatever it was. And people would come with their trash and they would come with their recycling and they would separate the cans and the bottles and so on, and the newspapers, what have you. We don't have that any longer. So now what people do here basically is it's home pickup. You pay Welsh $25 or $30 a month, and they come to your house and they take your stuff away.
And it's $40 a month.
Okay, where it goes, nobody exactly knows, I don't think. It's out there somewhere. Anyway,
Or, Eliot, there's one other situation you can do, and that is to go to the neighboring town, Rhinebeck,
right,
and they separate everything, and it's much cheaper than having it picked up.
You pay a modest fee as a non-resident. It is less expensive. Welsh, there's no question, but the trade-off is the convenience. of being able to take the cans down to the,
That's the inertia.
rather than having to drive it to another town. So depending on your circumstances, you go one way or the other. Anyway, all I'm saying is that things are changing slowly. I mean, I'd have to get a sense, my sense would be right now that the kinds of issues that we're talking about here probably would not resonate with many people in the town of Clinton. Maybe I'm being overly conservative in that sense. I think people are just accustomed to doing these things on their own. And it's going to take some time for them to readjust the thinking to the kind of more modern approaches that this group is talking about. Joel, do you think that's a fair assessment?
Yes and no. I mean, I think you got to start somewhere. I know
sure.
that you and Mike Whitten, I never won in the town of Clinton. It was always when I got elected. I won eight elections in a row. It was supporters like you in the town of Clinton and the Rhinebeck Democratic machine that carried me. But you guys have taken the sword out of the stone and slayed the dragon. Mike Whitten and yourself and the
I
other.
don't know, I'll go quite that far, but
Okay. But let me go back to the town of Hurley. You know, town of Hurley has quite a bit of rural nature, right? There's some houses close together, but isn't there a lot of kind of country, bucolic, rural stuff happening in the town of Hurley?
Well, there is. And what we do is, well, for every place, we look at the demographics, talk to people and ask them what they're currently doing. And then what we do is we are able to get a core group of volunteers to do an audit. And we figure out how much waste that community is generating. Doesn't matter where it goes, right? And people are, well, you know, we gave out all these scales. We only got one scale back. The people continue to monitor their waste. And what they say is that they are continuously reducing their waste. So if you were to look at the operation there at the Reformed Church, that's used by 80 families right now. We're looking for 20 more families to use it because now that the system is mature, it consumes the waste from 80 families, and it doesn't produce enough compost for a 3,000 square foot community garden. You know, so I still have to bring compost from my facility to add to what is produced there. But the people that come there know each other, and it's a point of pride for the people that use it. And it's a point in the community where they are able to take this material and support the people that eat that food, plus the food that goes out to different distributions in the community. So what people are saying for our well-being and our environmental and social health is that places where people can come and meet and collectively do something. So when you come there, you can see this compost that these people have made. And, you know, I am fortunate, I get to see some of those people, but most of them I never see, and I've never met, but they know each other. And we are looking as a society for more opportunities. to do that. And the state with this grant, they are going to allow us to build 3 systems in the town of Hurley and surrounding towns. So I can build one in Woodstock. I can build one in Ashokan, wherever they want them, because that's the service area for the transfer station. And then at the transfer station, because what we find is that people's composting is problematic. They can't do it in the wintertime. So there's several months where their compost is frozen. Our community composters get enough material in that they don't freeze. And then many people have problems with odors and flies, which stop the effort. So where people say they're doing something, what they actually do is they throw their food waste out back. And when you go there, and people invite us, and we've been at, say, 40 different houses in the past 6-7 months, and we have fixed their composters. And we have brought them. They never took scales. They never, got involved with the audit. But we were able to fix their composters and make them. This is in part. We did this for people in Saugerties, and this is in part why we were brought. And there was such a turnout at the Saugerties meeting. I mean, if you Google Saugerties, you would be able to watch the presentation. They have us standing up there for 40 minutes.
I know that this problem is going to be solved because Shabazz told me, like, in November, December, hey, Joel, if you can just get some important people to come visit my thing here, I will come to the town of Clinton and we'll do a punch thing and all this. So I know it's going to happen.
No charge.
See, Shabazz is willing to
I do
come.
that. We do that, no charge.
Shabazz is willing to come and lay out all the not necessarily do the whole audit, but lay out a whole bunch of possibilities. I'm sorry, Neil, the hand is up. What go ahead, ask the question, Neil.
It's not a question. It's a compliment to Shabazz and all of us, because he said something. He gets to meet all these people as he does his work, and regular people, like meaning non-political people, political people like Manna Joe and Eliot. If you're a zero waste organizer, you get to meet the best people in the country, and it's just great. I've been doing this for 50 years. I've got many friends who I've never seen, but I've written to and talked to on the phone and on Zoom. And for Eliot and Manna, I know how hard it is to run for office and deal with all the rigmarole of conservative and uneducated people. It takes a lot of patience and perseverance. So I respect you greatly, and thanks for the work. And of course, Shabazz, you're a great organizer, along with Josephine. So great spending time with you folks.
Thanks, Neil.
Well, I just want to.
True.
I just want to take a picture.
Of what?
Too late. Already did it. So Terry, is that Terry
hot
Shapiro?
mic here or something?
Yes.
The old hot mic routine, right?
Terry, is that Terry Shapiro of Saugerties, my Facebook friend?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
Dave Heller. Dave's been sitting this whole time. Dave, what's on your mind?
Yeah, so New York City started finding people who throw compostable stuff in the trash.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, up to I think 100 or 150 bucks each time. So
Yeah.
they've started enforcing that. So there's going to be some really big changes down there, I think, in the next, few months, year. I've got my, I've been composting my whole adult life and then some. And so I've got my starters going. I got my bees yesterday. I got a beehive here and one at Dan and Marcia's house. So I'm going to be getting some honey this year. Just wondering, Shabazz, if you, by any chance, compared nutrient levels of your produce to that of, like, even top quality stuff from the grocery store. Do you have any data on that? That's what I would.
I never even thought to do that. I mean, we test our soil. I mean, we tested soil maybe 6 weeks ago, and we see that the pH, the phosphorus, all of that. But I've never done a biopsy of my green peppers. I never.
Because I hear these statistics, like it takes 30 carrots equal the vitamin A from a carrot in 1970. So it's like, it'd be really, like, it could be very powerful if you had data showing like that your system does more than just like it improves your health. Just you're better off getting your vitamin A from carrots than you are from taking a supplement.
Well, frankly, we have a problem keeping up with the demand for our product. So, I don't think I would actually do that. Maybe one of my customers would do that, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I would think it would be.
No, I wouldn't do it. I have a guy who grows giant pumpkins, and I have guys who do things you could mention nowadays that they're legal. We have a company that wants to make a hydroponic sock out of our compost and percolate water through it and then grow tomatoes. And we're going to meet with, and this is
Shabazz, isn't that like a compost tea? I've seen products called compost tea.
Well, we make compost tea.
Yeah,
and the farmer we have experimented with it, with our farmer, and he wants to make it in 1,000-gallon batches.
Wow.
So it's more, that's for them.
Yeah, I understand.
To do.
Yeah.
And it's for me, to make a consistent quality, high grade material consistently year after year after year.
Yeah. Shabazz, I had one related question. You said that you're currently working under a state grant to help build composting. What agency gave you that grant?
Well, we are in the third stage. It hasn't been announced yet, but we're in the third iteration of, the process of putting those grants together.
Yeah.
And we hope that it's going to be announced soon, but it's from the DEC.
DEC.
And it is a food waste diversion grant for residents. So it's a residential food waste diversion grant. And it was due January 26th of this year. And this is our third set of questions that so I feel like they're getting their ducks lined up to go to contract.
Good.
But all of these grants it's not free money.
I understand.
At all. It's not free money. A lot of people don't understand that, and with solid waste, these are all performance grants.
Mm-hmm.
So just looking at the numbers, we have to divert and quantify how we're, the amount, 104 tons of
So it's
material.
more like a contract than a grant.
No, it's a grant. It's a grant.
No, I understand that, but the performance makes it like a contract.
Yeah, in that respect.
Yeah,
it does. And it's something that, well, in most places, that is difficult to do. But part of the reason we chose Hurley is because they weigh already. They weigh everything. And it goes back to analyzing, because so we look at what people are currently doing. And this is what we do in every single place that we go. And then what we do is we ask them to do a little bit more of what they're currently doing. And that's how we make our design.
Great.
So whether it's Clinton, or it is New York City, or it is Saugerties, because every single place is different. Every single place. But this methodology is the same.
I wanted to add a short comment to what Dave Heller said about New York City. My son-in-law manages residential buildings, apartment houses in Manhattan, and the law, his company has been fined once, which is pretty good because they have over 500 buildings in New York City. But he says it's a lot of work for the janitors. It's extra work for the janitors who have to manage and manage to make sure people are in the apartment house are bringing down the stuff to the right place. So it's really a tribute to the supervisors, superintendents, I forget the term, and the janitors who are responding to that law that Dave mentioned.
Well, it'll be interesting because, as people get used to that down in the city, have to adjust their, apartment living habits to separate their organic matter and bring it to a separate bin, when those people move up here. Because like when I moved from here to San Francisco, and, like there was at that time, there was no green bins or anything. Like I kind of freaked out because I had nowhere to put my compost, and I just started a pile in the backyard. But
well, when my wife and I go on vacation and there's no recycling or composting, it's very frustrating when you go to a hotel or wherever you're traveling. People haven't gotten the message yet. Well, some hotels are doing it, not all.
And then Shabazz, one other question about science. When I met you in New Paltz back when Joel was here, you had mentioned cation exchange capacity. Have you had your compost or subsequent soil tested for CC?
I would have to check. I know the what you're talking about, but we have to use standardized testing, and it's required. It's required by the law, by our regulations, that we have to do it once a year, and that testing is not part of that. But if many people come and take samples, especially the people that are looking for a specialized to do a specialized job, and so I have those people in the database, and I can ask them if they ever tested for that. Is that something you're interested?
Yeah, it's something I'm really interested in. Yeah, because like I would like to do an experiment where like you're starting out a garden, so you take the cation exchange capacity of the existing soil, and then like maybe every other year or something, you check it again with all the compost and stuff you add and see how the soil has improved. And I would also, just for my own edification or knowledge, I might even do that this year. I'm growing all kinds of stuff. Just compare. I don't know where you get it done. I imagine maybe New Paltz has a lab that they could check the nutrient levels of a tomato or carrot or whatever. I'd just like to know, like, does all the time I spend growing a tomato, like, is it more than just having a better tasting, cool variety tomato, or am I really, how much more nutrition am I getting out of all that work?
I can figure that out easy enough. And I'll find your lab.
Okay. Thanks.
I think just because you grew it locally and it goes right from your garden into you, it is that much more nutritious, because a lot of our produce is frozen, it's transported, it takes a long time to get to us, and it loses a lot of nutrition on the way.
I agree.
I grew carrots a couple of years ago, and I had great greens, but my carrots were itty bitty, but I still ate it. And I didn't want to eat any store carrots at all. I just lost interest. It was awful because I couldn't get any to grow, but I was stuck with tasteless store carrots.
Right. Yeah, that's very true. There's quite a few, fruits and vegetables like that like you can't, even if they're a couple days old, they're just not as good as fresh off the vine or plant,
Yeah.
Well, Terry, I invite you to, let's see, on the 26th, we're doing workshops. That's a Saturday. We're doing a zero waste event. And
where?
At the Reformed Church in New Paltz, 92 Huguenot Street.
I'm there.
And you would be able to see that garden. And we have workshops at our house too. And we have basically 2 permaculture designs. And that we kind of feature at these designs, because I feel like the typical raised bed that's enclosed in either metal or wood is not something that's necessary with utilizing our soil and compost. So if you wanted to give it that shape for some reason, you could just make that shape with a shovel in the soil. Because of the cations, we'll keep that shape.
All right.
you can make it into a star or a rectangle or an arching curve, and you can just chop it, and you can make sculptures with it, and then you
Wow.
can but we have designs that we would like to show you where you can maximize your space. And we designed for well, we used to design for hands and knees gardens, and then now we design seat of the pants gardens. So it's a
I love the terminology.
we've been designing these gardens for 60 years.
Wow.
And we designed, I started on East 11th Street in Manhattan with the East 11th Street movement. And if you were to Google the start of community gardens, they would tell you that it started on the Lower East Side. And
Well,
this
I
was
grew up in New York City, so I remember that.
Yeah, I was there in 76. And I did workshops at my house, and I had a worm farm. And that's where and I sold them. I sold them, and that's where I realized that in the city you could not make enough soil to deal with urban rubble. And that's when I started making soil well, I built my first composter in 1978.
Very cool.
For the city of Poughkeepsie. But you're welcome to do that, and we do it all the time.
All right. I'll be there next Saturday. And I'm also on the list to get 3 cubic yards of compost from you. Josephine wrote me down.
Okay. That's what we like. It's coming out soon. I spent the whole
I love
day
you guys.
today.
I may want 4. I mean.
So it's drying up. We're going to get to it.
And Miriam and Karen want some too.
All right.
I told them to get some from you.
Shabazz, when you sell a finished compost, is the market year round? Do people buy during the winter?
We made our first sale probably January 15th.
Oh, okay. So we do have a market.
So, and it was frozen because we have a big pile, and the crust was like that. So I broke through it, but you get some big frozen chunks anyway, because he bought a 20 yards truckload.
Nice.
But it's we provide it year round, but the very best thing to do is to buy your compost in the fall and store it, cover it and store it, so you have it whenever you want. And when you see the size of the load, you'll know how much space to allocate for it. And so those people aren't waiting for the soil to dry out enough for us to screen it. And by law, we have to put it through a 1/2-inch screen in order to sell it. So it's a little complicated, and because our material has the electrical charge that it has, and it is it kind of wraps itself. The compost wraps itself around the soil, right? So soil is sand, silt, and clay, and humus. That's what soil is, right? But compost is not humus. Compost is like humus is made of humic gums, humic acids, and lignin, right? So lignin is a long chain polymer. It's kind of like plastic, but it's natural, right? And it's kind of the glue that holds the gums and the acids together. And that's the major component of soil. Now what compost does is it feeds the soil food web. And when we as organic gardeners think about the fertility of our soil, what we really mean is what's living in the soil. And the compost feeds what's living in the soil. A lot of people think that plants eat compost somehow, but they don't. Plants get their carbon from the atmosphere. And the compost feeds life in the soil. And that symbiotic relationship between the plant and the soil is what the life in the soil creates. So when you think about your garden, you're going to plant the same stuff in your garden. You might move it from this place, you might move this tomato here, and then next year you might plant it over here. But basically, you only have this space. So what you want to do, what we try to do is we try to make a material that is perfectly balanced with nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, like the macro elements. And then from there, you're able to put this material in your soil without skewing the balance one way or another. So it's got a pH of 7, and it's got an even amount of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, all of the macro and all of the micro elements. It has an even amount, so you can use the same stuff year after year after year. And now you can plant your carrots and get a good result year after year.
Let's hope.
We grow carrots. We have beds that we've made for carrots.
So you brought up a bunch of topics that making me think. So one thing that I have been hearing a lot about is, well, first of all, like no-till gardening, don't till your soil. And I've been thinking about getting a broad fork, which is basically a wide thing.
I have a broad fork.
You do? Okay. And
I also at the church is a no-till garden.
Okay.
Right. So if you come down on that Saturday, you're going to see a no-till garden. And the person that runs that garden took a course with us about 20 years ago. And we had a permaculture school, and he uses that technique of the garden. Now, I went through with Robert Reich. Do you ever hear of Robert Reich?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I've met him.
I went through our garden there on Huguenot Street with Robert Reich. And Robert Reich is a Cornell guy. And I spent time at Cornell, and doing in the Waste Management Institute, right? So we have this common thing. So he comes over, he calls me up, and then we meet at the garden, and I have read all his books, right? So, but I didn't tell him that. And he went through that garden, and all of the techniques that are in his books are, and it was like harvest season, right? All the techniques that are in his books, he could see in that garden. And he started pointing them out. The companion planting and the interplanting, right? And the weed-free, because it is a weed-free garden. And you know what gardens can look like coming to the end of the summer, And you go to that garden today, you go to a Saturday, and there's not one weed in it. And you don't need a tool to plant whatever you're going to plant. You can dig it with your hands. If you want to put in a tomato, you can put your hand in up to your wrist, open that soil up and plunk your tomato in. So that's the technique that we provide for our customers. And we have customers that we've had for 50 years. Lots of them.
I just thank you everybody for the discussion. My wife has sent me a number of interesting text messages. I'm a little bit late for dinner. She's not the happiest camper in the world, but trying to explain to her we're doing important things here. I wanted to give a shout out to Eliot. Eliot just sent me a message. He may not be able to stay on much longer. I know at this point it's 10:45. I can go still a little bit longer, but Eliot, thank you very much. We don't have to end now, but I just wanted to, Eliot, thank you so much. Shabazz, Neil, Mike, Mom, Manna, Terry, Dave, everybody. I'm not signing off now. I just wanted to give Eliot and everybody else a shout out. You guys make me feel like maybe we did something tonight. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Joel.
And I just want to follow up with Shabazz and Mike Ewall ASAP on what we talked about. So let's follow up by email and make a time.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And thank you, Neil and Joel and everybody on this call. It's been an important part of my life, and you folks have all contributed to it. So my gratitude.
Thank you very much, Manna, for being here and everything. I've known you for a long time. Tell everybody you know in Ulster County I say hi. And
Okay, that's a lot of people. And I also wanted to I think he left, but I'm also, after 10 years of service and 8 years before that on the town board, I have 2 Democratic challengers for the legislature, and if I win the primary, a Republican, or actually person's going to run independent, but it's a busy time for me trying to juggle everything I was already doing, plus a primary campaign with 2 challengers. So wish me luck.
we
Thank
do.
you.
I didn't know that, Manna. I didn't know. Yeah, Jen Metzger. Please tell Jen I said hi. I know she's busy making Ulster County the best county in the country. But Manna, I didn't know that. And I hope you win that primary, and I know you will, and go on to win in the general once again.
And we also want to be the first county in New York State to achieve 70% renewable energy generation by 2030. So we're doing that one. We're working on that front as well.
Hank's been. Every morning I listen to WAMC as I'm getting ready to go off to my teaching job, And I heard that. I go to MidHudsonNews.com every day, and I heard Hank talking about that. Hank Gross from MidHudsonNews.com and WAMC.
Great.
Exciting.
Mom, Terry, Mike, Dave, thank you, Manna.
I'm gonna head out. Thanks
Dave,
for setting the meeting up.
Abyssinia, Ethiopia.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Mom.
Good night.
Thank Manna. Good night, John Boy. All right. I will make a YouTube and connect everybody by email and send it out and post it. Thank you, Shabazz, Manna, Mom, Terry, Mike, everybody. All right. I'm shutting it down.
Thanks all.
Okay.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Saves the chat.
I will try to do that somehow. Yes.